What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast. I'm Jason Sobel from the Action Network. He is not Ben Everill because Ben Everill is sick this week. Texted with him just a little while ago, said he has no voice. I know he was in the Ponte Vedra Beach area over the past week, and so our thoughts out to Benny. Hope he feels better soon. We're going to look for somebody to replace him, and then figured it's a short week. We've got to get this podcast out. We've got to help the people, and so sometimes, you know what, instead of playing 18 holes with a buddy, it's nice to go out and play a little 9-holer by yourself, get through it pretty quickly. And that's what I'm going to do today for the Farmers Insurance Open. Before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about the number 3 ranked golfer in the world, Jon Rahm. And I say that with a little laugh because he is playing something a lot closer to number 1 than number 3, despite what the algorithm says. Jon Rahm, with 4 wins in his last 7 worldwide starts, including each of his starts here in 2023 at the Century Tournament of Champions and this past weekend at the American Express. Oh, by the way, he's really, really good. I'm not sure that we've seen a convergence of recent form and course history like the one Jon Rahm has this week, this intersection he has since maybe Tiger Woods in his prime. And I'm not saying that to compare Jon Rahm to Tiger, but I quite honestly cannot recall a time in the past 15 years that we've seen someone as hot as Jon Rahm is right now going to a course that they traditionally play as well as Jon Rahm plays. He has 5 top 7 finishes and 6 career starts, including a win at the Farmers Insurance Open. That doesn't include his 2021 U.S. Open victory as well. So, I mean, this is a place we all know how much he loves it. He proposed to his wife at Torrey Pines. That's how much he loves this place. Proposed to his wife. Started his life with her at Torrey Pines. And so I will do here on the podcast what I did in my preview piece for the Action Network, which is essentially I'm leaving Rahm out of it. Look, I'm trying to find you information to help you out. You want to be helped out. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you for me to sit here and say, hey, by the way, Jon Rahm's really good. You might want to look at him this week. I understand wanting to have a Rahm investment. He is anywhere from plus 390 to plus 450 in most books as I record right now on Monday afternoon. That's a little too short for me. He does start on the South Golf Course, which if you're going to pick him up, maybe you pick him up live, maybe wait for something like a 1 or 2 under round on Wednesday in the opener, and then pick him up before he plays on the North Course on Thursday afternoon. That might be one way to strategize around a Rahm investment this week. I really like him for one and done pools. Some of your fellow poolsters will wait until they can take him at the Masters or the U.S. Open. I have no problem with taking him at a week like this. He will never have better win equity than he does this week. And DFS, look, it might depend if you're playing cash games or GPPs. Cash games, you almost have to take Rahm this week just to cancel out your competition. And for big contests, fade him at your own risk. He's really expensive. I get it. He's more than $1,000 more than anybody else, but do with that information as you will, because fading Jon Rahm right now doesn't seem like a great proposition. That said, I will keep him out of my 9 bets this week as we get into it. One reminder before we start, the Links and Locks podcast, proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION, ACTION, to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer in New Jersey and Colorado. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 for free. All right, let's get into it. Playing 9 holes all by my lonesome this week. Starting out on the first hole, as I usually do, with a long shot outright play. The last time this guy teed it up on the PGA Tour, all he did was nearly win. Hayden Buckley finished runner-up to Siwoo Kim at the Sony Open. Didn't play last week. And I would submit that Torrey Pines is actually better suited for his game than Waialae was. This is a guy who's one of the better drivers of the golf ball here in his second season at the highest level. And I will, as you'll find out very shortly, I will litter my card with some of the best drivers of the ball this week because I think driving, strokes gained off the tee, is going to be one of the most important metrics. And as far as Buckley, he opened in some places at 130 to 1. Bet 365 is the time of my recording Monday afternoon right now is 110 to 1 there. I would have expected him to be somewhere in the 70, 75 to 1, maybe 80 to 1 range. I think 110 to 1 is a great number on Hayden Buckley. Again, we know he's in form. This should be a good golf course for him. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. So, hole number 2. I've got a top 5 play. Now I've got 2 top 5 plays, a couple of guys that I am essentially bunching together this week and maybe for weeks to come because they've taken similar journeys to get here. A couple of former number 1 players who, at least on the back 9 of their careers, I don't know that they're on the 18th hole anytime soon, but they're on the back 9 of their careers, major champions, trying to claw their way back. And it looks like they're getting there. It looks like they're starting to play some really good golf. One of them is Jason Day. Got him for a top 5 at plus 425. Look, he's won this one twice. Even last year when he wasn't playing his best golf, he finished in 3rd place, held the share of the 54-hole lead, and wound up finishing 1 shot out of the Luke List Will Zalatoris playoff. Really like Jason Day. There's nothing not to like this week. By the way, Benny Everall texted in and said Jason Day is his play as well. Surprise, surprise. The Aussie going with his favorite Aussie. The other player I had with Jason Day for a top 5, I think there's some value in Justin Rose as well. He's won this tournament. Really interesting. Justin Rose in his first 7 tries at the Farmers Insurance Open, nothing better than 22nd. In his last 5, he's been top 10 in 4 of them. He has figured out something on these 2 golf courses that has really helped him. Again, like Day, played well last week. Nothing special, but certainly nothing that would scare you away. At 10 to 1, plus 1,000 for a top 5, I think Justin Rose makes a whole lot of sense. All right, 3rd hole. Told you we're going to race through these, playing by ourselves. Is Taylor Montgomery almost an auto play for a top 10 these days? He leads the PGA Tour in top 10 results this season with 4. And maybe the only surprise is that he doesn't have more of them because he's got 4 others that are between 11th and 15th. He's got 8 total top 15 finishes. The guy's really good. I don't know that his game perfectly fits what I'm looking for at Torrey Pines, but unlike most golf courses on the PGA Tour where we don't have any real history on the rookie, last year he played this one. And he didn't just play, he played really well. He finished in 11th place. Here's thinking that the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year can do 1 notch better on the leaderboard this week. I will play him for yet another top 10, plus 300 for Taylor Montgomery. 4th hole, speaking of rookies, a guy who did not get nearly as much credit as he deserved in his rookie season last year because there are a bunch of really good rookies. Cameron Young, Mito Pereira, Sahith Theegala, Davis Riley. All these guys were rookies last year. And so Alex Smalley did not get the notoriety that he probably should have. That said, he's been very consistent early in his career, coming off a 22nd place finish where he led all players who had 2 measured rounds in strokes gained on approach shots last week at the Amex. He was 3rd of those measured players in strokes gained tee to green. So at plus 280, I think Smalley makes for a nice top 20 play, just a couple notches better than he was last week. All right, 5th hole. I'm going to a guy that I've been saying this for years. If you knew the golf swing, but didn't necessarily know the players, and were sitting at a PGA Tour range one day and just watching all the players hit balls, you would look at Jhonattan Vegas and go, that's got to be one of the best players. Big dude, hits it a long way, soft hands. There's nothing not to like about his game. And don't get me wrong, he's got 3 career wins. He's had a nice career, but he's one of these guys that I could see having sort of a late career surge. this should be a good course for him. He's played well here over the years. Taking him for a top 30, very conservative, but I'm getting plus 300. I'm getting 3-1 on a top 30 for Jhonattan Vegas. It's not a real sexy pick, but after a injury-riddled season a year ago, I think this is going to be another good one for Vegas. Again, he's just a guy that I've thought for a long time is probably better than the results have shown over the years. And that's not a knock on him. If anything, it's a compliment. Hole number 6. All right, we're getting down to the top 40s, guys. And you know me. Look, if you really want to go Jon Rahm, top 40 at minus 900 this week, I don't know. You're probably going to win. One of those stupid bets that places like us at the Action Network put on social media and go, oh my gosh, one better put $1.3 million on Jon Rahm for a top 40 to win 73 cents. Okay, it's more than that. He's minus 900 for a top 40. I'm not going to do that, but you're probably going to win if you do it. I mean, it's hard to say it's a bad bet. It's a winning bet. I mean, if you got the cash, you got the bankroll to do it, go for it. Me, I'm going to be a little choosier here. I'm going to go for someone much further down the list. Kevin Yu, like Jon Rahm, an Arizona State product. He's been pretty solid here in his rookie season. He's no Taylor Montgomery, but playing some nice golf. And what I like best about him, I mentioned it, guys. You got to be a good driver of the golf ball. Kevin Yu is second on the PGA Tour in strokes gained off the tee. You know who number 1 is? The guy who was just talking about, Jon Rahm. Anytime Jon Rahm is number 1 and you are number 2 at something, that's probably a really good thing. Kevin Yu should have the right skill set. He is plus money, plus 187 for a top 40 this week. 7th hole. Let's get to my first round leader. Much like last week, much like next week at Pebble Beach, multiple courses in the rotation. My advice to you is know what you're betting on. If your book separates the South Course and the North Course for Wednesday's opening round, okay, just understand that there's only half the players. So the odds should be cut in half a little bit, and you get what they're going for. Some books, I have a book that last week did not separate. And so I tried to play all those guys that were in La Quinta. It wound up being a La Quinta guy last week, but it was Davis Thompson and not one of the guys that I picked. But if they're not separating, go for a guy that's playing on the North Course, because the North Course should be, even though it's tougher than it was before, it should be playing easier than the South Course. So I'm looking at a few different guys here. The tee times are out, not usually out on a Monday, but we're able to look at these tee times. And so searching for a guy who, over his last 11 trips to Torrey Pines, he has never failed to break par in his opening round. It's really impressive stuff for Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley's been really good on this golf course. He's had some nice finishes over the course of 4 rounds, but really what I'm looking at is that opening round play. He's got a little bit of a reputation as being one of these guys that is a fast starter, as if that's a bad thing. I've never thought that's a bad thing. But really over the last couple of seasons, he's been fairly average. He was in the 90s, I think 95th last season. 76th this season, so nothing real special. But Keegan is a guy that I'll chase. I'll want to have a little first round leader love this week. As I'm looking right now, because the tee times have just come out, we find Keegan Bradley in the 10:30 a.m. Pacific time group off the South Course. He'll be with Siwoo Kim and Sunjae Im. So I did like him if they were going to combine. You have a book that combines both the South and the North Course, but I won't be chasing Keegan for that. But if it's just South Course, give me Keegan very quickly. If yours combines, you know what? Might look at a guy like Taylor Pendrith, who I'm going to mention in a second. Didn't have his best stuff last week, but he's playing the North Course. Tee time shouldn't matter much this week. All players go out within 2 hours of each other. So that is Not much of an issue. All right, we get to the 8th hole. We got 2 players for these player markets that they have on Bet365, which I think they're a great way to bump up your bankroll a little bit. Playing guys to finish better than they have them listed for. Look, it almost looks too easy sometimes, and I know it's not. I've got 2 guys here. I mentioned Taylor Pendrith already. 47th or better at Bet365. He's minus 120. All these are minus 120 bets, whether you play them for better or worse than their assigned number. Taylor Pendrith is a guy who's a very, very good driver of the golf ball. Did not have his best stuff last week, missed the cut, but he should be able to bounce back at this one. I like him a lot. And then JJ Spaun, who we saw show up in Hawaii, both events in Hawaii, played some really good golf. A West Coast guy, a guy that I like to target in the first couple of months of the year. He is at 41st or better for this one. And so I'll be playing some JJ Spaun at minus 120 for better than 41st. All right. That's the 8th hole. We get to the 9th hole, our last hole. I told you, this is going to be a quick 9. Flying through it. I believe that for the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years, I have played Tony Finau at the Farmers Insurance Open every single time. His skill set fits these 2 golf courses. Now that he's finally learned how to win, guess what? I'm not jumping away from him, even though I kind of hate the number this week. He's a guy that I might wait on and see how he plays and maybe jump on him a little bit later if I can get a better number. But 12-1. He's in that trio alongside Xander Schauffele and Justin Thomas that are all probably too short considering how short Jon Rahm's number is. But look, I said it before. I can't take Tony Finau here 6 years in a row. And then all of a sudden, he figures out how to close out events and not take them this year. So I like Finau. I'll probably back that up, complement it with a each way bet or a top 5 or top 10, just to have some sort of investment just in case Jon Rahm goes nuts this week, which I suggest for most of your outright plays this week. Sort of Rahm insurance. It's as if the dealer is showing an ace and asks if you want insurance, and you're sitting on a pair of kings, and you're like, well, better insure this because I've got a winning hand. I usually don't take the insurance in blackjack, but you know what I'm saying. You might want some Rahm insurance this week. And if I'm playing Finau, I certainly will do that. So those are the 9 holes. Appreciate you guys listening. Ben Everill, we hope you get better. Hopefully I have him back next week for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. One more reminder, the Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer in New Jersey and Colorado. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 for free. Thanks so much to everybody out there for listening to this episode of the Links and Locks podcast. Remember, you can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and listen every single week during the PGA Tour season. Good luck with all your bets for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. Here's hoping you hit the green.